N-E-W-K-I-R-B-L-O-G, new Kirblog. Let's go. I know I cheated. I used this song already, but fuck it. Hi, I'm recording this super in advance. It's still like kind of a little past the halfway point of Animepril at the time that I'm doing this, but fuck it, because I just watched Teen Titans: The Judas Contract, which is the newest DC animated straight-to-video movie, or I guess straight-to-streaming service and online things in this case, because it's on like Amazon and iTunes and a bunch of shit. But nonetheless, I watched it and I had a bunch of thoughts on it. It's been, I think, close to 2 whole years now, actually, that I did the original just straight-up Teen Titans Kirblog a while back, which I'll have a link to that at the end if you want to go check that out. Nonetheless, so this movie came out, Titans Judas Contract. This is the reason this is a big deal for me is because I remember, and this might have been absolute bullshit, but I remember distinctly, probably well over like 10 years ago, because I feel like it was in like the early days of me going to Wikipedia for everything, hearing about the idea of them possibly doing a more serious Teen Titans animated movie. Again, I don't know if that was just a rumor or if that was bullshit or if they like wanted to do it for a long time and never got around to it or whatever. I'm not really sure, but either way. But yeah, I remember reading about that, and whether it was true or not, it was something that I always kind of wanted. And I'm not going to reiterate too much of my kind of general opinions of Teen Titans as a whole, but I will just to refresh in general. I'm a big fan of the series, the early 2000 series that was on Cartoon Network and WB. Not super familiar with a lot of the comic source material. I'm more familiar with kind of other things about these characters by other stuff, like obviously watching Young Justice and being a big fan of that in this last year or so. And also having friends like Xander who are bigger into like, you know, keeping up with actual comics and shit on a consistent basis and knowing a lot of this classical stuff. But I do know from my kind of early days of, in fact, actually even back when I was on the TV Tome forums, so I'm talking like, you know, when Teen Titans was on, I remember learning about how the Judas Contract was, of course, a classic story arc from the Teen Titans comics that was very, very minutely, loosely adapted in, I think, the second season of the Teen Titans animated series, if I'm remembering correctly, which was the whole Terra working with Slade / Deathstroke and betraying the team and then turning and actually growing to love them and et cetera, all that stuff, you know. So I was aware that was what the source material was. I was not aware of some of the inner workings of it. Xander had kind of filled in a few gaps in terms of certain character relationships and things. In terms of these, I guess a really quick history of my kind of experience with these direct-to-video or I guess, you know, direct-to-home release DC movies. I've seen a lot of them. I love, of course, Under the Red Hood, which I know is one that a lot of people like. My personal favorite is Justice League Doom, which is, I believe, the one with Vandal Savage as the lead villain. And there's a whole bunch. I've seen a lot of them. And like the Flashpoint Paradox is cool. There's a bunch that I still have not seen. So on that note too, I have actually not seen this recent slew where it was like what the hell is it? It's like Justice League Dark and Batman First Blood or whatever the hell it's called. This recent like kind of series in a row with a lot of focus on Damian Wayne as one of the central characters, where there's actually been kind of a new sort of consistent voice cast as well, because my kind of experience was that all of them were often switching out whatever semi-celebrities they wanted to have. But yeah, so I have not seen a lot of these, but I have watched before this one. I watched Justice League versus Teen Titans, which I was really excited about, and then watched and was not a super big fan of, unfortunately. If you haven't seen, I would still recommend checking it out if you're a Titans fan, because it's worth seeing nonetheless. But the only real thing that I took away from it that I really genuinely enjoyed was getting to see a pretty decently executed version of Raven's true backstory, which was also something that I knew about from my own kind of separate research. And Raven was a very well-executed character. I don't remember the actress's name, but she did a really good job on that kind of more toned-down, realistic version of her. So I liked that a lot. So that was cool. That was what I enjoyed. But this one I was particularly excited about because the Terra stuff in the original show I was always a big fan of, and to see it done kind of more faithful to the comics was always like just inherently something interesting to me. So that aside, getting into this movie itself. So interestingly, again, as much as I enjoy the iterations, the kind of Warner Brothers, kids oriented iterations of Robin, Starfire, Raven, Beast Boy, Cyborg, Terra, a lot of the central ones. As much as I do love those versions of the characters, like kind of as their own separate thing, I feel like with the stuff that I've learned about the original comic book versions of the characters, and like some of the stuff I've learned from like from Young Justice, things like that. I really feel like this movie in particular was the first time that I was really seeing how these characters were always kind of envisioned to be. At least like the Titans. I can't speak for like the old school versions of like Robin and a lot of them, but just in general, like the way that I think that most comic book fans see the Teen Titans was kind of what I was getting from. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know how much comic book fans like this one. I never really know for certain, how they feel about adaptations like this, but I got that feeling right away, which is also funny because I've brought up Young Justice a lot. My thoughts about the cast are mildly conflicting because overall I really liked the voice cast of this movie a lot. There's a side of me that's like, oh man, it would be so cool to see, like Scott Menville, Tara Strong, Corey Payton, Greg Sipes, and Hannah Walsh get to do, and I guess Ashley Johnson as well, of course, for Tara, get to do like a serious Teen Titan thing. Like I've always wanted to see that. I know that some of them have gotten to like some of the video games and things like that, but they've really only gotten to play these specific characters in the kind of more kid-friendly stuff, which is fine. And that's not to discredit the actors that were in this movie. They were fantastic, and I actually really liked all the choices for them. Although that said, I was getting to a point about Young Justice. It was funny because the fucking opening sequence has Jason Spizak as Kid Flash, Masasa Moyo as Bumblebee, and Crispin Freeman, of course, as Speedy. Which is like, oh, so it's a Teen Titans movie with some of the Young Justice cast making cameo appearances. It's like, sure, I'm not complaining. It's just funny and weird, I think, but nonetheless. So the whole opening sequence, which actually was something that, and I'm sure this is from the comic too, but a scene that I had kind of already seen an animated version of, like much more accurately in the case of the episode of the 2000 series that was just called Go. It was like the origin story of how they all met, etc. And when Starfire first lands on Earth and everything. Very similar, very cool, unique kind of take on it. Really great, kind of like sets up the kind of more lighthearted, colorful sort of, envisionment for the Titans before it kind of gets into the darker shit. So I actually didn't know fully that Brother Blood was the villain of this movie. I knew that Slade/Deathstroke was a key part and that Terra was involved, but I did not know that Brother Blood was there. So I had never seen Brother Blood kind of in his like true element. I just kind of know him as like the creepy teacher version or whatever. So seeing his actually legit creepy, oh god, fucking psychopath, god complex character was something else. He was all right. I think that obviously Deathstroke was kind of more of the main event when it came to a cool villain, which by the way, a little, shout out, well, not shout out, but I mean, just much respect to the late great Miguel Ferrer, who did a spectacular job voicing him this version. I love me some, Ron Perlman and Fred Tatasciore from Young Justice and et cetera. Or Mark Ralston, I think, did him at one point, maybe. Either way. But Miguel was amazing. I didn't even recognize him, too, which is weird because I've heard him in so much stuff and I didn't put that together. But he was great. Really disturbing, like, badass, scary, kind of, and even occasionally funny, weirdly. And also Christina Ricci, who I was kind of like, really? For Terra, she did pretty good. There were a couple moments in the early parts that was a little awkward, but she sold it for me with her. She had some pretty crazy, screamy, dramatic shit towards the end. I won't spoil everything, but she had some pretty intense shit towards the end that actually very much impressed me, and I was pretty happy with that. So good on her. And overall, all the cast I actually felt was really strong on this, and generally got a good, kind of realistic vibe. Some of these straight-to-video movies have a little bit of like a weird, awkward execution, how dialogue is spaced out sometimes. It's kind of hard to explain, but it's like certain things about like the timing of like how things are said along with the delivery, and then sometimes even like how the animation won't quite fit exactly what's like, I feel like what the emotional point is supposed to be of a line or like an exchange between characters. It's hard to explain. It might be super nitpicky on my part, but there's a few moments like that I noticed in a lot. But there was a lot more of that in the Justice League versus Teen Titans one. This one had far less of it because it wasn't super distracting in this case. That was the main thing that was like kind of aggravating me about the previous one. But no, overall it was pretty well executed. In fact, actually on the note of the visuals too, I don't know if like a lot of them have looked like this. I mean, like all these movies have pretty decent animation. Like that's not to be like, oh, whatever. But like something about this one, I was noticing a lot in the very beginning scene and towards the end, the last couple scenes, there were some like really like I want to say like Disney-esque like high amounts of frames of like different drawings for just dialogue. Just literally dialogue exchanges between characters that were looking really, really expressive, which I was so not used to in seeing a lot of DC and just not even DC, just superhero stuff in general. Things actually have taken a little bit. I want to say almost a little bit more of like an anime turn in terms of like how good use of still drawings and and action and et cetera, and some of the mouth animation, stuff like that, and expressions. It's something gives a little bit of like an anime vibe at times, and even some of the art styles are a little more reminiscent of that at times. But nonetheless, yeah. So visually, this one was very striking. I liked all the designs for the most part. Tara's design was a little weird at times. It was something about it that was. It's definitely more in line with like her original comic book look, which is also a little weird. Not like I'm saying the Teen Titans series version is that much better. It's extremely different, but something about the one in this is a little like funky looking. I don't know, but the rest of them were all pretty standard. I like the kind of general look that these movies have been going. Story wise, pretty good sense of pacing. A lot of good high points and breaks and times to breathe. Plenty of kind of natural points led with character development this time around. That was another weakness of. I'm just kind of contrasting this a lot to the last Teen Titans, direct-to-video movie. A lot of the kind of because the last one was so much about like, oh, Damian, we need to get Damian broken in or whatever, and get him to understand, and then kind of secondarily Raven, who's still awkward or whatever. And a lot of the moments of them trying to like develop them all the team together just seemed very like kind of hokey. In this movie, it felt much more natural. Like a lot of the interactions between the gang, and some of the sarcastic one-liners and the execution of them were a little like, all right, we get it. You're all very funny and young and snarky. Okay, it's a criticism I hear a lot about like Avengers Assemble from a lot of people, which I haven't watched that show in a long time, but I remember a lot of people complained about that. But it's not like, again, it's not super obnoxious or distracting, and overall I think. Because particularly with the way Damian and Raven came off this time around, where it's like, look, Tara, we get it, because Tara's the one who's kind of the fish out of water, and obviously she's got some other shit going on with Slade, and seeing what that was, I mean, I kind of knew what it was. I knew what their relationship was originally supposed to be, but seeing it is like, ew, gross, no, bad. But it's like, yeah, but I get why. It's just, but it's fucked up, and I mean that's kind of the point, nonetheless. But anyway, yeah, so her being the fish out of water and Raven and Damian being like, look, we get it. It's not easy, but we want to help and kind of, it's definitely, I get that it's that same kind of arc of like, I'm meant to betray you or I wasn't ever really with you, but I grow to care about you and shit. I'm conflicted and, oh God, and Slade, I don't know how I feel anymore and et cetera, those conflicting ideals, and Tara having to be the one to have like the real major arc. But everything being built around her in this case, with all the others kind of just doing their thing and being themselves, and them being themselves is what allows her to make that change. It works really well. This was a story I think that worked very, very well for just this, like hour and a half long or so experience. This was a really, really good job. I'm really glad that they went with this arc in particular, which I was expecting because they have a little tease of Terra at the end of the Justice League vs. Teen Titans movie as well. But the most satisfying thing about this whole experience was I think I really enjoyed the clear theming, the clear sense of like utilizing what the Titans specifically are all about, and that, which Beast Boy I think kind of is the biggest sort of conduit for getting that across through a lot of what happens. And that, because in the beginning, Beast Boy is, I don't want to say he's not necessarily creepy, but he's definitely like in that sort of young, like stupid, horny, thinking with his dick kind of thing. But I think the fact that like at the end of the day, when you see a lot of the stuff that he talks about, and what all the characters talk about, not just him, but him predominantly, about like, hey, we've all got kind of fucked up pasts, and a lot of us don't really have family to turn to necessarily anymore. So we've kind of had to, make a new one for ourselves. And that's what all of us are for each other. Like that kind of stuff is something that I dig so much about. That's one of the things I like the most about superhero stories, especially with younger characters like Teen Titans, and it's what drew me into liking the characters as they were back in the animated series. Even part of what entertains me about Teen Titans Go when I watch that once in a while, and definitely with this, I'm very glad that this is something that finally got to happen. I think that I tweeted about this a few weeks ago when I first watched it. So this is the same day that I put that tweet out about the Judas Contract movie, where it's like, this is definitely the more mature Teen Titans movie that I think I'd always wanted. Kind of like how I felt about the Power Rangers movie in a similar kind of sense. And in this case, it was even, unlike the Power Rangers movie, it was far more faithful to the source material, but in a way that I think was very, very strong. And getting to see that stuff animated was really a treat. And it felt like there were no holds barred on this one. I think a lot more than some of the other DC direct-to-video movies that I've seen in recent years. Flashpoint Paradox is also pretty, like, nuts because it's super violent. But this one, I think, had really, really good morals to it. Great cast of characters. Young Justice has certainly made me appreciate Jaime, Blue Beetle, so seeing him mixed in with these characters, even though he was not one of the Titan characters that I grew up with, still he felt very at home, and it was great seeing him. And I like this iteration is pretty close to how I remember liking him in Young Justice as well. It was great stuff. So I guess that's kind of all I have to say. So if you've not seen Judas Contract, it is available on, I think like Amazon and iTunes, a bunch of other stuff. If you were a fan of Teen Titans to any capacity and you have not seen this yet, I don't know what the hell you're doing. Please actually go check this out. It is 100% worth your time. Not perfect, still certainly has a couple little awkward things in, execution-wise, but it's a really, really good experience. It's a great, classic story with these characters. Very, very good, solid adaptation, great use of animation. Great all around. Here's another one where I'm just gushing about this. Go check it out. In the comments below, leave your thoughts about the movie. If hopefully you have watched it by this point, you can talk about other stuff that I didn't go into spoiler territory on with this. If you want, maybe I'll communicate a little bit. Anything that you would like to see particularly adapted in the next Teen Titans movie, if they were to, I'm sure they'll probably do another one at some point since they tease that there's probably going to be more. Let me know your thoughts, hopes, dreams, aspirations to the future. Don't know what's going to be next after this, but look forward to the next Kirblog. And since it's been a while, I can put this out here. If you have suggestions for future Kirblog topics related to Teen Titans or DC movies or otherwise, let me know, and I will perhaps do a topic again, because I haven't taken any topic suggestions submitted in a long time, because, again, I keep doing shit that I have had planned on my own anyway. But that's it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I'll catch you all later. Fare thee well.